We're about to head into our first game, so it's time that we introduce you to our first two teams of the day. And both of these are actually two of our recent additions to, well, Europe League as an organization, as a team. You can call it whatever you want. But one of those, specifically WYLDE, they did phenomenal yesterday.
I put a question mark about WYLDE when we spoke about them yesterday. They responded with an exclamation mark by demolishing Koi 7-0. It wasn't even close. They just picked them apart. And I felt like they reintroduced more of an old style with taking area, making executes, and just, yeah, they didn't give Koi a chance.
Definitely, and I mean, Fresh, you moved over to the telestrator just to show us a little bit about what WYLDE was doing yesterday, and this is with some cinematic shots as well from in the game, so I'm very excited what you're going to show us.
It's absolutely excellent. So we've got 3 different clips coming at you, and it's a little bit information heavy, but we had fun with Red Like Our Observer for getting these telestration clips using the new free cam feature, and it's very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you 3 attacks that WYLDE did, all on the same site, and it's the Garage Basement site onto Chalet, and WYLDE are operating with the same fundamental. They want to plant and they want to hold 2 angles. The first angle you can see right through the middle of your screen, the long angle where the ace is all the way down to connector, and then they want to stop the defenders from being in blue to swing around, which is kind of an angle this way. So the first clip, let's roll it. They've got the breach with the ace holding the long angle. They've brought the gridlock to cover off the plant sound as well, and to cover the long angle as well. So you're going to see the ace is now holding it, gridlock moves through, and the plant is going to go down in an unusual spot. It's going to go down on the doorway. And there's about 17 things I've got to show you. So the ace is covering the long angle, gridlock throws the track stingers, plant's going down. They've got a player inside of trench holding the feet angle to connector. Now, as we get into the room, a few things to note here. 1, they've got a drone that knows that pillar is clear. 2, they've smoked off the hatch, so that any defenders playing the hatch cannot kill the planter. 3, Capital Fire in blue. All of this, in combination with the gridlocks going down, basically cover all of the sound for the plant to go down. It's a really nice way of playing Rainbow Six Siege that Fabian's just said. Teams don't do it. Teams don't like to try and play for the plant in these 4v4 scenarios. Round 2 comes along. They want to do the same thing. And this is why WYLDE are genius. This is the best bit about WYLDE, is they do the same thing, different operators, different ways of doing it. So now what you're going to see, the plant is going to go down as the Ash charge to open up the long angle. The breach goes in, Thermite runs in straight away for the breach. Again, notice the drone that sees pillar is clear. And the Ash and the Nook try to engage the player on the deep angle so that the Thermite can get the plant down. Plant goes down, different spot, different set of win conditions, but still the same ideology. So that will be round 2 going down. Now, did they do it 2 times? No, they do it a 3rd time. This time they bring in Osa, and they use the Osa to cover off the long angle. But what do they do this time? Instead of just the plant going in, Aces runs in the breach at the same time with the aggression and actually gets the kills because they think, hey, Koi might try and adapt on this. They might try and push through. What does Aces do? Pushes in the breach, gets himself a 3K. Now, for these 3 rounds, the same fundamental is still there. They still wanted somebody holding the long angle from the breach and somebody holding onto blue, but they did it 3 different ways. And this is how WYLDE basically are playing 4D chess at the minute with all of these teams, because they just want to play for the plant.
That's a whole different game indeed. But yes, lots of plans coming out from WYLDE. It's definitely something that we noticed yesterday. It's a bit off meta, but then how do teams counter that type of stuff?
You need to peek them. You need to actually challenge them. Koi didn't do any of that. They just sat back in the bathroom hiding, crying. I don't know what they were doing, but they weren't there. They need to do something differently to counter WYLDE. It's just the way that it needs to be done. And then I can ask the question to you, Fresh. Is Into the Breach the team to do that?
I don't know, because we've seen Into the Breach being quite a static team. You know, we've seen them not really improve. However, Into the Breach should have had some time to sit there after their game yesterday and be looking at themselves. They'll be sorry for themselves that they lost the game, but they will have sat and watched the WYLDE game going on. And if they did that, what they should have been coming up with a solution is, your solution is, we need to peek them, we need to get into their faces. So for Into the Breach today, what I'm hoping we see is them get in the face on the defense, get aggressive, get in the face of WYLDE. Don't give them the ground like Koi did. We saw in those clips, Koi gave them pillar every single time, gave them blue every single time. WYLDE took it and planted. Will Into the Breach do that? I hope so, in terms of getting in the face.
If they don't change up their gameplay, that is when they're going to fall apart. Because if you looked at the last game they played, they just sat in their corners, waited for better weather that never came. They never made any action happen. And then when it was too late to fall back, well, it was too late and they just died in their positions. That sort of gameplay will play in perfectly to WYLDE, because then WYLDE is allowed to do exactly the same thing as they did against Koi. Just pick apart, pick apart, pick apart. I did speak to Leonski. I spoke to him on Twitter, and I asked him what went wrong, because we expected more. They also expected more. They felt like Nurse took over for them yesterday, so hopefully we see a different team show up today, because they have not been producing as poor of results in practice as they were doing yesterday, so we can only wish for more.
I was going to say, the beginning of the story made me think that we were expecting another 7-0 here, and I was really hoping that would not be the case. But looking at the stats, so just up on the screen as well, for example, one player that really should be doing that, well, running in, peeking in, that should be Kento, right? He definitely delivered yesterday.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that we saw yesterday, actually, if we take it even a step back from Kanto, and I'll go on to Kanto in a second, but in stage 1, they had Noah playing the Iana, and they had Noah being the main guy that they were looking to get the frags. That didn't happen. Noah moved off. He played Brava, Sense, Dokkaebi, played a flex position yesterday. Kanto was the one that they was then looking for to get those kills, and boy, did he turn up. We know Kanto's got that quality. It's just the inconsistency that he's had kind of plagued him over the last, 18 months in his personal performance. If he can keep that quality high, he can definitely start dragging them through some rounds and even, into some games to be pretty competitive.
Yeah, but you shouldn't rely on the one player dragging you through the games, right? You need to have it much more stronger than that, and I think that everybody in the team needs to perform. And I do think that they looked better the match yesterday than they did the previous stage. They actually look like they have the players for the roles now, at least, that they have one person that makes sense playing those roles. It's up to Noah now to step up on his individual gameplay, because yesterday was poor. I mean, I ripped into the guy. It's just one by one, they need to step up, make everything better on the server. And I think they'll be fine. And I expect that today, because Leonski's told me so.
All right, it's fine. You're from the same country. You can probably take that one there. But yeah, I mean, looking at, Into the Breach yesterday, it was better than what we've seen from them in the previous stage. I mean, they won about half the rounds, which they did in stage 1, which is very good. Bravo. But then what really was better? Or is this just adding to the list of things that they need to improve on?
I think one of the things that, yes, they did improve statistically in terms of the rounds, but it is also Skyscraper defense. So I'm going to kind of toss that up a little bit to being, had they have started defense at Skyscraper in some of the rounds in stage 1, they would have picked up some more rounds. The one thing for ITB yesterday is they didn't really look in control. Secret controlled the rounds in, I think, probably 8 or 9 rounds against them and really put them to the sword. So I just want to see them stay in the rounds, I guess, because they seem to have these bits where they have a good start and then they just drop off. Somebody will die, there'll be no refrag, and suddenly the round seems to just get away from them. I'd like to see them make better decisions to stay in those rounds for longer.
It's just simple. There's the list of what they need to improve is pretty much endless, at least from the last stage. And just seeing small changes constantly improving, it's just they need to get more proactive, have more balls. That's what I'm going to say, because you need to start peaking, you need to start taking chances, and you need to start playing aggressive, because that's what Siege is currently in the meta. They do that in practice. They don't do it in officials.
Yeah.
And nerves can get the better of you, sure, but are you going to let nerves control your entire year?
I've been on a team where that happened, right? When we was on Chaos in 2020, we beat everybody in scrims. You remember scrimming against the Chaos of 2020. There's players that are still to this day coined as scrim heroes because of that Chaos team in 2020, 2019. And when we got to game day, everyone they let the nerves get the better of them, couldn't perform, and then we didn't win. We got relegated. At some point, you've got to stand up and be like, the nerves are there, whatever, but I'm just still going to do what I do in practice, and it'll convert.
It's a really important step to make in your career at some point, indeed. But in regards of maps, both these teams actually let Nighthaven come through yesterday. Maybe I'm just on some copium here, but I would like to see Nighthaven, which is, once again, not happening. We're going to Bank. How are we feeling about this one for WYLDE and Into the Breach specifically?
So in terms of preference, this is actually a big surprise. And the reason that I say this is WYLDE, since their inception at the start of stage 1, have pretty religiously banned away Bank. It has been their permaban. So they're bringing out the permaban against Into the Breach, which, doesn't make necessarily a whole lot of sense inside of a best of 1, but if they do win it in 3 points, I guess it would secure them deciders. For Into the Breach, it's a map that if I remember rightly, they played it once and they got 7-0'd on it last stage, so it's not got a great recent history for them.
It's not just recent history, it's just the way that the map plays out, If they go into Bank and then they sit still like they did last playday, they'll be crushed because you cannot sit still on bank, especially not against Wild. The map in itself, I don't think it matters. It's all about the mentality for Into the Breach. Show up with the right one, or you'll be 7-0'd again.
Indeed, the real question is WYLDE able to continue that run, or will ITB show up today? Lots of question marks there is, but it's looking better in regards to stat lines for the Into the Breach players. They just really need to show up today because it's important, right? We only have this little amount of play days. You need to step up if you want to make it to a major. Yeah,
and that's one of the things is, every team competes. Every professional team is wanting to compete to get to the majors because the majors facilitate the end goal for every single team in the league, which is 6 Invitational. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to win. And if you lose today, if you're Into the Breach and you lose today, you're almost definitely going to be going down through and having to play through LCQs and open qual playoffs and all that type of stuff, which just gives you so many more chances not to get to the majors in the 6 Invitational, which means there's so much pressure on every single best of one.
Yeah, but the question is Into the Breach really looking into making it to the major at this point? I mean, we're looking at, this is a project that needs to...
Why not?
Look at it realistically. They played extremely poor last stage. They were nowhere close to ready. Now they managed to pick up 2 new players, and they managed to, I would say, make the team better. But that doesn't mean major ready. That doesn't mean it even remotely close. They need to take so many steps and improve so many things. Not only better players as an individual, they need to improve everything as a team too. I don't think Into the Breach is aiming for a major from the normal stage. I don't think that they're maybe even aiming from the others last chance qualifiers either. I think that first of all, they're aiming to make a team. They don't have that yet. They have players, but that's not a team. They need to build something as a foundation.
It's a really important step indeed. Now, we talked about WYLDE's off-meta playstyle. Is there a certain operator that, for example, Into the Breach can ban to deny WYLDE from succeeding with this off-meta playstyle that they've been so successful with?
I mean, if they saw yesterday's game, Capital would be a really good ban, but I'm pretty sure that WYLDE have 5 different operators of the same sort of mindset that they can use, or different plans and made up plans that they haven't even practiced maybe, but they have something in their playbook.
The one thing that I would ban away from WYLDE, if you consider, hey, there's these, you could call them crutch operators, but they play so many of them, they're not crutches really. They're flexible on so many operators to facilitate their style. However, the one thing that they showed yesterday is that Jegs is now the Iana main. Jegs played a lot of Sledge and some Iana last stage. Now he's exclusively playing Iana, and Aces is flexing around the kind of secondary a little bit more. Take that Iana away from Jegs and you might take WYLDE slightly out of their comfort zone, but obviously that would be taking it away from their own operators as well. So I think I'd potentially go down that route.
No, Fresh.
Would you not? No.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong? Great.
Yeah, you're really
That's
wrong.
the second time in about 3 minutes you've said that to me, Fabian. Let's go.
Right.
Jegs is actually so capable of playing so many different operators. We saw him in 10-star, and he just played whatever he wanted to. I don't think he needs to play Yana to play really well. He can play anything, and that entire team can play everything. I don't think that team relies on individual players pulling off good games. They rely on the teamwork, on the effort as a group, and they crush everyone as a whole, not on the individual basis.
Because I was told by WYLDE today that Jegs is an Ihana one trick by one of the WYLDE players, so who's right? Who's right?
All right, you know what? Maybe we should just go look into the game and see who actually is the Iana main and who actually plays what certain operators. Real question is, though, does WYLDE continue their flawless run so far, or are Into the Breach able to step it up today? We will see on bank, and we'll see with Fluke and Happy 2 can take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Anne. Yes, it is me, Fluke, and who's that over there? Is that Hap?
It is Hap, yes.
What is that voice? What's that voice?
It's just there, you know. I was just enjoying the old bickering married couple on the desk.
How do I know it's really you with that voice?
Well, I mean,
I thought that was
my girlfriend hasn't come home yet.
If I close my eyes, do the voice.
Yeah. Hello there.
I don't know who that is.
I don't know either.
Thank you.
It's my cat.
Thank you to the desk. And yes, we find ourselves here in a little bit of a tricky situation. Obviously, as we said, ITB, they've technically had growth and they've shown they've got some things on their plate. On the side of WYLDE, though, my word, they were destructive yesterday. And sort of in that gun game thing where you had them screaming away with the fights. Ossa, gone. Twitch, gone.
So we're not seeing the Capital ban that was being talked about, the Yana one. As we go over towards the defense now. In terms of the bans, Zami to be removed. Probably a Solace as well. I mean, it's been a very mainstay ban over the last 4 games we've seen, so wouldn't surprise me. And there you go.
There it
It's
is.
Soulless ban indeed.
Zami and
How
Soulless.
predictable.
I mean, it's like a good and bad, right? It's you look at that and go, yeah, they're really powerful defenders. But then you look like to the left and the right of them and you're like, oh God, there's so many powerful defenders.
But that's the thing, right? Like 2 seasons ago, people were already like, is this the moment where we can expand to 6 operator bans? I think there's definitely going to be echoed here. Cats, by the way. Lots of cats.
Love the cat background, and obviously it did very well for them. That is the new Sandbox Esports background, and it is beautiful. It's perfect. It's everything. It's everything that you would want a cat-themed background to be. The gun skin has a cat and an anime girl on it. I mean, it's not.
What else do you want?
Who knows? I don't.
More cats?
More cats. Even more cats. There needs to be a dog one, and we need to finally.
Oh yes.
We need a dog's skin and a cat skin. Rabbit.
And a cat dog skin.
Rabbit's a great pet animal. A hamster skin. Where we should use.
I mean, I believe Envy did have hamster, right? Like I've seen him post about it on Twitter.
Envy Taylor, the 2 people I know
ago.
who have hamsters in the Siege community. Envy Taylor and Easy. The.
Oh yes. What was his name again? Hamster. I forgot.
Eclair.
Oh yeah, that was it. Yeah.
Okie dokie, let's get into this as the start approaches. And well, the worry was that they would be a bit slow on their approach. And you have to look at how ITB pulled some of their rounds yesterday. Obviously, they got 4. 3 of them was the sort of core on their defense. And the one that they got on their attack, they very almost didn't. If one person looked to the left, it would have been the end of the round at that point in it. So instead, suddenly you find yourself wondering just how much they can build on this half, because the second half, it usually is going to spell a little bit more disaster. On the flip side of that, Wild, 6 rounds, 6 plants, 6 takes. And here's the attempt on it. They're already going right behind it. They're tucked in the opposite corner. Packball's not quite safe. He pulls away. The C4 comes around. They're quite damaged. They have to make sure when they make the connection it's the right one. But look at this. ITB, they're pushing up. Kanto gets a kill. It's suddenly a 5 versus 3 with Packball now dropped down as well. And that was a fantastic rebuffing of, you want to try and play the game you played yesterday? Good luck.
I was kind of going to mention that because, you know, Chalet, we saw some very synchronized and, you know, thought out takes to come through from the side of Wild. And I think especially on this bottom floor, it is very simple to get that diffuser down. It's just so much utility you always need to deal with. And as we saw Teb come in with the Flores or Terror drones, that was quickly taken care of. It's just the aggression of ITB on the actual bomb side that's stopping Wild from getting that diffuser down on the ground and going over the top immediately, as well as Azure takes down Aces. These are only up to Hungry in a 1v5, and it seems like their flawless streak will end in this very first round. Oh, that's a new one as well.
I'm assuming this, obviously relates to changes. Obviously, the player cannot see that.
Yes.
But we get a cool cross section of what's ahead of them, and you know, you may notice as well some of these outlines are a bit funky. There aren't all the blue players alongside Noah at this point. As you can see, there's a couple of blue and a couple of red. They are all.
They're not double agents.
Team. No, they're not double agents. They are all working onto a single side here. It's just one of them things. They're taking a moment here. Hungry. They're letting them sit in this. They're kind of hoping ITB gets a bit angsty, and also sort of saying Wild is like, that's a round. Let's go for a new restart of the whole game.
Maybe someone forgot to go to the toilet and I'd have the opportunity to, you know. It's not a great start for Wild, especially how they started off. Any Smiley's coming in now, something like that. Comes a shield, C4 gets popped. Not going to be finding anything. Have to be fully ready. There's nothing Hungry can do out here, so he's just going to be taking the last 10 seconds as well. Let them cool down just a little bit more.
Run!
Pep will try to command the opposing team.
Hey, who's observing? Do we have? Is it medics? Is it red like? Red like, I guess I asked the wrong time for red like to get a swing there on the camera. I was hoping there would be a turnaround, but I was a little bit late on the call for it. All right, CEO. We're going to see go. There's now 4 cat backgrounds. Yesterday there was 3 from Wild.
Might that be the difference? Just 3, just the right ratio for cats and backgrounds. If that's the case, then
that's the case. I mean, they lost the round. They're bringing more cats. Someone
Bring all
track that
cats.
stat.
There were 4 cats last round as well.
Oh, okay. CGG, track the stat. Correlation of cats to success. If we were allowed to use all skins, which we shouldn't be, this isn't me advocating for that, just going to start with that, you could throw in the cat skins as well. A couple of operators have cat skins. Thorn has one, Kavera has one, Ella has one, I think.
5 seconds left before insertion.
Oh, yeah, there's quite some cat skins. Is there any else?
They should give one.
Something inside of me tells me that Valkyrie would have one.
Chat,
but
who do you think deserves a cat skin? My vote is Ace.
oh, yes.
Okay,
Ace cat
well,
skin. Also Tachanka.
also Tachanka. Wild, things went a little bit awry before, but they're not a team that can take a knock, because we know they are flawless throughout league play in this, and that continued yesterday with a flawless game. No rounds dropped. They've suffered a blow. They're on the back foot, an unfamiliar taste, but it's so early in the game.
As they're looking to look a bit staircase. Just hoping to find some drones or maybe someone to insert themselves into the building a bit early on. Not having everything fully droned now. Of course, we know that WYLDE usually starts off quite aggressive. They take that ground and then instantly start working towards that plant. And if you're able to stop that right in its tracks, you're able to really stop them in that round. And Nexus seems to be aware though as he was looking towards that area. Tep jumping in, actually sees a person, gets the kill as well.
Swung around, looks for the fight onto the back of Banana, but everybody is dead. It's just Noah left. He unfortunately couldn't quite find the fights yesterday, and flawless is the response. I highlighted, there's a cat ace. I highlighted the idea of a flawless half from them yesterday, and they respond in kind, bringing a flawless round, getting themselves level up once again. And well, that was a snapshot on that CEO hold.
It was very quick. They knew exactly where these players were and they all executed at the same time. Gunfights going their way. And that's the kind of WYLDE we can see as well. Previous round they tried to go for the plant. This round it was more of a 3-2-1 execute moment. We're going to have to see if we're going to see a bit of a mix of that or if we're going to see more one rather than the other. As we head towards the open area now. Usually when we do see a plant here, it's right behind the kitchen counter or right underneath the hatch drop on the A-bomb site. Top 4 falls, being highlighted right now by our observer. So that's 2 things to pay attention to. It's probably going to be either of those 2 tags.
10 seconds remaining.
You hope ITB aren't knocked too bad from this. As I said, this is the important half. It's also, strangely, the half that WYLDE opted. They wanted to lead in on their attack on here onto Bank. I say strange, you can do that on Bank. It is a good map for attack, and they're obviously an excellent attacking team. They demonstrated that more than enough yesterday. But, you know, you're also thinking of how do you play into your opponents. They're giving ITB their defenses where they were a bit stronger yesterday. They're sort of putting their weight of their best half, or their better half, against the weight of ITB's better half and hoping that they come out tops. It can backfire. It will, but there's always that opportunity. And obviously, as they rotate around to the slightly different site, the Mirror's more than ready to try and get some swings on the back of this. Tab so quick to get into position at the top of blue. And, you know, you can see WYLDE already sort of eyeing up the site, and only about 40 seconds has passed.
Yeah, so they've pushed Tab up there so he can hold anybody going for a bit of an adventurous move outside of that kitchen, because they did hear someone, they did see someone on the drones as well. So just making sure it's being held as Aces gets the very first through the windows, find Noah. Not sure if that was a jump out attempt or if that was just right through with a ping on the windows.
Yeah, like right through. You can see the phone around janitors, and I mean, it was a rough day at the office yesterday for Noah as well. They couldn't quite get themselves into the gun game, and this was one of the sort of things I highlighted. Checks from the top rope, though, gets the player who really did get stuck in, the one that you really want from the ITB side to get back into this game as well, because, you know, when you have aces popping off and you have Jegs popping off, even Packball ended up with a +3 KD yesterday, 5 kills to 2 deaths playing the planting game. It's still those names you need to pop off in response, because otherwise this happens. Azir, all that's left here for ITB is looking for fights either side. 2 people line up, he gets one of them, but with all the pressure around the top and behind, another round for WYLDE.
I think Aces just actually might have just, fired through the wall, getting the player inside of the archives out there, because it's not a pretty muffled player was looking around as well, like, where am I getting shot from? Instantly drops to the ground after, and Wild, again, not going for a plant, getting the kills is enough right there. So 2-1, still leading, still building out on that lead. Back towards the bottom floor, though, as the rotation has been completed by ITB, now unlocks again. They can play the objective that they have won again. And while bringing that Monty, they might be looking to go for another plant attempt. And if they do, they might want to approach this a bit differently. Maybe they get pressure down in different areas. Make sure they have that top floor fully under control before trying to attempt to plant again.
If this one falls away from them, because we have to remember it was sort of a quick attack that was quickly pushed back. There was great motion from ITB, but as you said, an alternate plan might give them a little bit more space and wiggle room for a second approach here. It's really going to fall to, I guess, how much pace Wild want to apply themselves here. It was a bit of movement from ITB's defense. It was something highlighted by Fabian, as you have to have a bit of movement, otherwise things go wrong. It looks like they've tripled down. They're going to go, let's hit the hammer hard and force them out. Maybe see if they can use these Flores drones to get rid of the fire, which is obviously a sort of common occurrence on this side. Yonka will call that. Yep, they're just removing those bits. There's still at least a little bit more, but Tev is sending in the artillery to repeatedly remove anything they can. Kanto with a slow creep across servers over the top, might try and angle towards the open hatch that's right above them. They've got to play some caution to that, Wild.
Oh, there comes the Rotero drone just to quickly push Yonka back slightly. Smokes coming through as well, but the C4s are still in pocket, being tossed in. I believe they actually just got shot there. As Hungary step forward, the EMPs as well are stopping any other C4 from detonating, and the plant already happened. So 45 seconds counting down. ITB will now be on the retake, but they do have players on top of blue, which will make it very difficult to use that hatch.
There's it, the motion to the top fight on square. He knows where to look, and Kanto finds the kill. Aces gets Azza in the meantime, and he's got to see if he can try and keep this pressure. As I said, that hatch is an important part. The C4 to the door, it's not quite close enough to get the full bite on Aces. He's going to go for the swing, because Kanto believed it was clear, because nobody died. The fight is still battering its way towards that diffuser with the Monty stuck in the corner and flashes coming through. At this point, it's just a bit of bullying, and Packball kills Teb. Get rid of him, I guess. There's a knife onto a Monty on the back end, but with 4 seconds, it is another wild round, and it's a wild way for it to end.
Don't know if we can get that in replay again in slow mode there, but I believe the first C4 got shot out as it bounced off against the Montaigne shield, and afterwards it was just EMPs striking quickly after one another to make sure that there was no extra nitro that could be tossed out to get that pressure on. This time, also having someone top square, having someone on the blue staircase meant that that hatch in the square could not really be used to put that pressure down. So as I said, they needed that top floor control. That's what they took, exactly what they needed to get that plan down, and they found it successfully.
So we saw a player disconnect on the side there, so there was a tech that I assume has been called now to fix that. But one thing about this player's sort of camera cavalcade we have is yesterday, Aces' camera was frozen in a different place. And this time it's just his forehead that it's captured. Like yesterday it was like he was leaning into the camera. His camera just has a habit of freezing at fun moments.
I saw a different theory about it. With every kill he gets, his camera gets more blurry. That's why it's currently so blurry. It's just because of all the kills he got.
There's always a possibility. No, we'll hopefully be back into the game soon. Jax has fallen asleep in the bottom left there. He's having a
oh yeah,
he's awake.
just that pillow.
Sorry, mate. Didn't mean to make you up. Go back to sleep. Don't worry about it.
I've never really sat in a chair with a pillow. Like I don't know if it's comfortable. Yeah.
Well, pillows are traditionally comfortable.
Yeah, I know, but it's like in your chair. It's like I don't have a neck rest in my chair, so I don't think it will really work for me.
Do you? What? I don't. Don't advertise.
An office chair.
Don't advertise, but just a generic office chair. Okay, you don't have like a gamer chair?
No.
Oh, now he's fallen asleep with his hat on. Fair enough.
Oh, good for him having some rest. Just charging up before they go again for the next couple of rounds.
I do like that when Teb does interviews, he obviously brings out the Italian flag, grabs it around himself, but it's off during play. It's a celebratory only Italian flag.
It's not the Italian flag stays on kind of deal.
No. Only for special occasions, Italian flag. CEO. We go all the way to the top floor, and obviously this was flawless, and it was a heck of a swipe. It went from all 10 players to
Discover the location.
pretty much only one ITB player left within the space of about 10 seconds. And, you know, and it included a drop just from White Skylight, just throwing themselves around, where the player just seemed unaware of that motion because of the pressure that was coming through on Banana, where most of it sort of hit. And a lot of damage was done and onto the windows. So ITB, it's tricky because how do you respond to that in a short space of time when it's all of you dying at once? How do you work out where the weak point is?
5 seconds to go.
Well, that's it. Like, it was just everywhere. Normally, like, it's as strong as the weakest chain, you know, and then they just broke everywhere at the same time at that point. It wasn't really just a single spot that seemed to falter. Just everything went their way. Noah, though, was preparing himself a nice little jump out. Just waiting for the repel sounds to come through and act upon that. WYLDE is getting some good information on the Valkyrie out there. As they're just roaming around, they know exactly where it'll be. He has to be careful to not just get pre-fired.
It almost was. They didn't go directly through the windows to try and take the fight. Instead, get a little bit of wiggle room to it. So they weren't quite able to shoot back against tracers through a single soft. And here, I mean, the knowledge that they're firing upon you, get out of there. They're closer than you think. Jegs wanted to see if they rotated up. Aces is instead going to try and put the pressure on the back end, as has not entirely left the spot yet. If he goes up, he'll get caught out. He's cautious of going down below. In fact, Aces doesn't feel confident enough to go for the fight. Although, we're going for servers. I thought that was Blue Door for a second.
As they're roaming around, I'm wondering if they're still watching that drone, because there's a lot happening on the WYLDE side of things right now. You do not want someone with a C4 just roaming around right below you. Oh, never mind. He's been taken out. As I say, Aces takes him down. That's the C4 gone as well. No more threat coming in from below.
Kanto wants to put pressure here out onto square. You got a player above square Skylight. You can't get the cleanest swing round, and Yonka's going to see if he can dip underneath and replace Azza in this power position. But Aces wins it out, gets traded. And it's a big dedication, but with Noah getting one more on the top of square, suddenly they have, you know, one body less, but it was a very dire situation. They've been able to reclaim some control of the map, wrest some of that away from a WYLDE that was pretty spread out. Kanto's going to rotate his way up round to the back of Noah, get himself some support as Packball goes towards the windows. They have a lot of time here, WYLDE. And now they only have a single player left, but it is Kanto, the one that we called for at the beginning of the game, the one that we needed for ITB to step up. He suffers from the long range. It's a great gun with a great scope on it, the 1.5. But with 50 seconds in a 1 versus 2 with barely any health, he's got to get himself in close, hits the beepers. They know he's coming. They're on drones. He's going for the ping. He's going for the swing. He cannot make it.
Packball gets off just in time. Just look at that. Gets up the chem, instantly turns around in the pre-fire out there. Knew he was coming, was ready for it at the very end as well. And I was going to say, when it was a 2v3, they knew exactly where both of these players were at from ITB, so all they needed to do is just isolate one and then bring the fight to the last one. Kanto definitely brought a good fight there, though, in the end, trying to rotate around, trying to just take the initiative himself, because he knew if he waits in that position all the way on the back of the side, that round is lost for anyway. He needed to make a move stick, tried his best, couldn't quite get it out there. And that means WYLDE now leading 4-1. So ITB, yesterday they had a very solid first half, 3-3. Of course, preferred to would have gone more on their defense on Skyscraper, but 3 rounds is still something they could work with. Now they're hoping to get a second one here on bank against WYLDE, who have been looking perfect during Koi. Now, we've had a slip-up, of course, in the first round here, but besides that, everything seemed to have been working out quite well for them. It's like, there's no real big critique points for me for WYLDE right now.
Well fortified. 5 seconds left.
All right, it's starting to not turn into a full slide, but as I said, the appearance of multiple players alongside Kanto was the request. And we're just, unfortunately, not quite getting it. You look at the sort of spread, and okay, there's only really a couple of players that are fully flourishing under the kill game. But, you know, when Pact was playing the plant game, Hungary's been picking up the shields and sort of being a drive round. Just having a gun either side is a big bit. Kendrew, he goes for one. Dip diving is almost slips away. Aces from the top rope gets one. The hop out of Noah gets a quick response and revenge. He should be clean to get back into the building. This is sort of it. Throw themselves towards the angle of the problem, do some damage there. Will it be enough? I mean, they're wasting no time. That goo mine is obviously a bit of a danger. There's nobody behind the shield, but only we have the omnipotence to know it. Punches out the goo mine, tucks himself in. The Fenrir is going to at least stop the sight. He's tucked in the corner inside as the pings come together. As I said, Hungary is playing this role. They've got Packbull, who's going to need to start utilizing that gun to swing behind it.
Azar's in a bit of a tricky situation, though. He cannot step out too far, and as soon as they know he's there, he's just going to get pre-fire because there's a soft wall right next to it. So definitely putting down some pressure on it. Hungry, not really under any big pressure as he walks in, has that giant shield in front of him, and as Azar takes a little bit more damage, they're just trying to get him out of a position out there where he cannot really fight back at them, and that shield is definitely making him very anxious about where he can and cannot be at the same time.
Now, for context, he can see through that mirror window. It's just from our perspective, he cannot, but it is see-through at this point on his side, so he's utilizing that just to keep the eye on the top of blue. Kanto's come to support him, though, and if he goes unknown, this could be a big blow. He's obviously got the Legion for a bit of support. They've sort of full sent themselves around the full send of the hold here on the back end. Kanto is curious. There's the reveal to the shield of the player in this position, and at what point, Wild, do you go for something else? Apparently that's it. Backbull tucks around the corner, gets the fight, looks for the next but can't quite get it. Dropped on the back end. It's, you know, steal this man advantage for ITB.
Still is. Hungry now finds himself inside a player right behind the shields, pinging it out, and shields himself, gets taken down by Azar, and Tab unable to respond. It's not going to be in a 1v3 situation all alone, and I believe he's pulling out. He's going to be taking the time out here. There's no recovering this round, and he's going to be using this to discuss their next couple of steps, I believe. He's going to go for a massive rotate around and see if he can pick back up Packbull, see if they can maybe salvage the round together. It's not going to leave them too much time, though.
Yeah, I mean, 20 seconds. By the time the revive comes through, it's 5 seconds. So
15 seconds remaining.
if even that.
See if,
Saving Private Packbull, nope.
10 seconds to go.
Gets bled out at the very end, so Teb's just going to be jumping in, hoping for the best. But Kento still in the archives, takes him down. Brings it to 2 rounds for ITB. Whereas Wild have 4 in their pockets. Now swapping over to the defense to see if they can hold off the ITB attacks. Because, again, I'm going to mention it, said it last cast as well. Whereas the defense might have looked like they have improved from stage 1 to stage 2, the attack is usually where the true test comes through. You need to have the cohesion, you need to have the plan, and you need to be able to execute upon it. So that's the test that ITV is going to be facing right now.
It's the big sort of split on it as well at this point, is what we've had is a half where we can look at it through a couple of different lenses. If you want to be a bit sort of rose-tinted about the scoreline, you sort of look at the opponents and how historically ITB have done. They've done what Koi couldn't yesterday. They've been able to stop WYLDE's attack. They've been able to stop them planting most of the rounds. They might not have won them all, but they also took a couple too. It could be a huge bit of growth here. It could be a huge bit of fight. You sort of said the flavor's going to come truly onto this side where we didn't really get a taste of WYLDE at all on their defense because of how well they played their offense yesterday. But a similar sort of story from ITB. We had a couple of rounds. They were able to pull one of them. They were getting themselves in close. There was a couple of sort of squeaky wheel moments towards the end. But at the same time, Bank is, I would say, a more sort of common battleground than Skyscraper.
Yeah, Bank, of course, you know, it has been in the map for such a long time, in the game for such a long time as well. Everybody at this point knows how to play Bank. Yes, that's getting more and more true for Skyscraper as well, but Bank, it's just a map where there's so much you can do, there's so much freedom you have, whereas Skyscraper is a bit more unilateral in the amount of takes and plays you can make. Oh, Nitrous Cell prepped. Leave his window is prepped for a jump out as well, so Ace is debating to take the fight outside of the building. Whereas Wild really looking out to the skylights here, making sure there's no one dropping in like they did. Because that has been very effective, especially in that top floor takes that they were dealing with. He seems to be very ready for a potential jump out to come through.
I mean, he pulled one off himself. It is an expected thing. You usually see it once per a team's half, sometimes double down, sometimes start at the end. But when the prize is ripped, is sort of down on the pressure against you. They've been able to sneak themselves in. Bit arrested control inside Banana, made the motion and getting the pinch onto the back of the player. It's Azza holding onto one angle as Noah is ready to drop and offer some support here. They're looking for this, just a quick fight onto Teb, who's doing his best to hold himself in and out, and you know, there's a chance at him escaping down underneath, sure, but it's always a little bit of a risk because you don't truly know at times what could be, you know, sort of around the swing or around the left. They know there's a gunfight, and they're able to take it out. Teb pops the head on the back end. They've lost aces recently, and then gets the drop on the hatch as well.
Had that prepared, fired quickly with a super short, a bunch of goo mines outside as well, slowed down a potential response that could come from ITB, and thus they find themselves in a 4-on-4 situation, a minute left on the clock, where Wild have to just hold off on the blue stairs and some of these hatches right now, which ITB will have to open up. You see it, Packbull and Kendra, they got each other occupied. Nothing really much will be happening there unless one of them will make a move, and then the rest of ITB is working with the rest of the hatches that are near the open area, near the elevator, and going to be trying to see if there's anything they can do there to force some kind of movement from these players. Vault drop may be coming through. Being prepared. Noah instantly rotates off.
I mean, it's the 4 versus 4. They're just sort of giving themselves, I think, some options at this point. You could see, you know, they're stacked up over the hatches. They're looking for the loose players. As I said, they've got the one down on the back of gold there. Hazard wants to try and take this, but in that time, they've sort of stepped themselves a little bit closer. They didn't get the full reel. Packbull, in the meantime, is on the back end of this. If they take the drop and they haven't tested this side, well, there it is. Packbull does a bit of damage, throws the X-Smos to the default plant spot. Jag is able to lock out Kanto in the time. He's now just sort of holding himself, and suddenly they're surrounded, but suddenly it's ITB. Pops up, pops down, leaves just Teb with only a second left. Noah's going to see if he can stick the plant in this meantime, and he makes a slow and steady creep and crouch over to the opposite end. A long firefight is Azza's. And then into the breach, broke through.
A very long angle being set up there, and held by as are able to secure it around there. And where it looked like it might have been going Wild's way, as the final 30 seconds were on the board, ITB, as they call their timeout, managed to find a victory on the attack right away, pulling themselves into that third round. Only one away from tying things up now, and trying to move on afterwards. See if they can extend the lead upon Wild. Take some points, maybe. Also, one thing is for certain, if they get one more round, they've got as many rounds as they did in the last stage. In just 2 games.
That's great. We love to
growth,
see success stories. I mean, it's a better performance than it was yesterday as well, because they feel more confident. They feel more assured in their motions, and they feel like they're really starting to work as a sort of team. And, you know, as I said, it's great to see more names pop up on that kill board, and they were struggling with that at the start of the game outside of Kanto, but now that sort of attack, their last sort of defense, we're seeing them pitch together as a unit, and that was, I think, a bit missing yesterday. A couple of those sort of missed moments and mistakes where you're like,
All right. Back to it. Top floor. See an extension with the castle out there, so going to be giving the CEO office up slightly. Going to be extending with that into the secondary bomb site. Make some long angles. Make sure you can challenge them to the top of square. Why that make these gunfights just a little bit more awkward for the attackers to take. Chems are being set up as well by Ace. You saw one being tossed into the lobby, so trying to get themselves ready for any information that might come from that direction. Mirror as well on the board, wondering where Hungary is going to be setting those up. I would assume in and around the janitor. One in watching the A site, put one in from the long desk towards janitor, something like that. Will be what is most default.
well, that's a way to start. Packbull got 1, Noah got revenge. It was the hop out there, so Noah was at least watching. But still, I mean, as I said, you sort of see the surprise once again. It's not always a Maestro, so maybe that wasn't a hop out. Maybe that was just a peek. Yeah, there's only one outline of a dead body.
I was going to say, because if it's a jump out, the cams could be hacked by the Dokkaebi out there. And, you know, even though you might have lost the IQ on the very early pick, at least you can still find out where these Valkyrie cameras will be because you have access to them at that point. So, I guess good for WYLDE that they do not have the phone control. There's a second jump out is being prepared, though. Ace is going for it, as they go for it. But no one was there for the cover. Good for them, because there's 2 players out there. If Ace has actually managed to find Noah, it could have been a double kill.
Well, it's not quite worked. I think it's fair to put it down. Obviously, there was the first trade, but now they've sort of just handed over a little bit of that. They're keenly aware. Noah's been able to take 2 of those players going for the hop out. The Bees echo across the whole of the top floor. They're not quite able to get any wiggle room. Kendry wants to try and find this first pick. They know exactly where they are, and they hit it with the pre-fire. It's a hell of a gun to go in with that. Sprayed back. Jegs is the cover with a very good gun as well. Hungry. He's deep, waiting and watching towards Stock. Hasn't quite been able to get his teeth into a fight in this game as of yet. Jegs definitely has, and as more Bees come through, he moves out before he's revealed, but there's somebody behind him. Noah gets the catch, and the swing, and another one for Noah. Huge round.
Great round. Found 4 kills in total, I believe. Managed to really step up there, using the beads as well to force players out of their position. You saw it. Grim shot, the Kawaii Hive being placed on the janitor door, instantly trying to go deep afterwards as a response from the Wild players, and it just punishes them for it. Now it's 4-4. ITB managed to equalize the score and now have an opportunity to take the lead. They'll try and do so upon WYLDE's return to the lockers. Back towards that basement floor. Worked out great for them last round until it didn't in those final 30 seconds. So they need to tidy that down just a little bit more.
I mean, these past couple of rounds have been great from Into the Breach. It's been quick. It's been aggressive. It's been all of those things that we've obviously talked about, that they talked about on the desk as well, of not wanting them to sort of sit around and wanting them to make some motions, both in attack and defense. And as I said, you know, their attacks yesterday on Skyscraper, it wasn't that they weren't getting sort of close, but they were getting in that position with not a huge amount of time left. They're a little bit disjointed to what each other was doing. And here is just so much more solid. It's quick responses towards the actions and the calls of each other. They're getting themselves mobile. It was very much a night and day of, this is how things were supposed to go yesterday, but we just couldn't quite get that energy. And WYLDE, they haven't really been able to get a handle on it these past couple of rounds. If this one goes away from them, you do wonder if we'll get a little bit of a conversation from WYLDE side.
Still have something left in their arsenal, though, as Kanto quickly entering into the open area. Looking to take that quick control, and it seems like WYLDE is not really trying to contest it this time around. Quick scan with the IQ, just to make sure there's no utility out there to give anything away. Let's say Valkyrie cams. Of course, they're not on the board, but they do not know that. There's no reveal phase like we had 2 years ago now, I think it is. Tabdo on that pulse. It's going to be able to spot the movements of the players of ITB. He's also going to be aware that there's no one in the tunnel as of yet. He's quickly checking right above him as well, just in case someone does start to go towards blue, and that's one heartbeat. That's the second one. So that's definitely at least telling them something about the push that's coming up.
They're waiting for this swing of Kanto. He's got the drone ahead of him, but look at that. They want to step in. They're trying to make sure that they find the first fight, and Aces gets it. There's Packball getting something as well on the back of the hatch, and they shut down ITB before they can be anything a little bit further. Aces is still buried on the back with a lot of support here. And Tebs, as you said, reading that into them, reading the approach, and it allows them to just do that. Pop around the corner at the right perfect second. 5 versus 2. Catch that grenade or get the full stop on it there. At least stem the blood, but I mean, you're looking at what, some Candelas and a couple of good guns and gunners. That's all you have to now try and force yourself into what is still all of the site put together.
60 seconds, drones being taken down. At least it gives you the information of Jags playing down near that staircase, but as you see, other hatch is still closed as well, so there's only one real entry point they have to start going through with. See the Yana fake to come in as well to try and trick some of them into going for a bit of a swing. They're now trying to go through. Yonka following up as well with the Candelas. They're hoping to get a plan down and at least force something that way.
Well, there is the cover of the blinds. There is the motion. They're just going to put fire either side as it suffers on the back of Jegs. There's a wild round. It feels like it's been a bit of a while, but they make it count here where they need it to.
5-4. This is a good, solid ramp from them. I mean, the information from the pulls really helped them realize it was a quick push attempt coming down from the blue stairs. Also, seemingly aware Packbull of the player that was already on top of the hatch, which of course was opened up. So he held that cover as everybody was looking to go for that very first fight into the player near the blue stairs.
Need to locate and defend.
Come out successful on both those fronts. Eventually allows you to just continue snowballing. Well, now going up towards the open area, seeing at least a double reinforcement, might be a triple, even a quad reinforcement. No, I think it stays with a triple there. At least a little bit for them to fight through if they are coming from the square area. Lots of barricades coming down. Of course, force sound to waste some time, to waste some utility from the side of ITB. And as they get themselves set up, I believe we have a couple of players going up to the top floor to at least stall for the initial first seconds of that round. Let them know, hey, we're here. You need to go for a full clear. Also, of course, the hatch reinforcements.
Attackers are heading out to defuse a bomb.
ITB, don't let this knock the confidence. Pulled 4 rounds yesterday, but the ones that you've pulled today so far have been really well put together. It's one site. You'll have a few rounds ahead of you. If you can get yourself pulled level again, I mean, the 3 points is that dream, right?
3 points is the dream.
If you look at the way the groups are set up as well, obviously the 2 teams from both groups that pulled full 3 points are playing again today. If those teams win again, if WYLDE pull another 3 points, you're looking at such a big divide. And a secret, you know, sort of get themselves in again as well. You're looking at an even bigger divide of 3 teams on 0 points. ITB want to make sure that they can keep up with the potential that's ahead of them. And there's the first. Pulling to their favor. Bunker's waiting for a response. He gets his first take on the game. Just going to give himself a call so he can maybe get those cameras, get an angle for the support. Look at Azza moving on the other side of Jegs. They're trying to get a bit of a pinch here.
Just holding patiently while they do not want to overextend right now. As the Retiros are starting to come out on the top floor, Tab seemingly has gone unnoticed so far. Especially if they have 2 players around inside of the archives, just, you know, causing some trouble, letting themselves be known. That means there's going to be even less people paying attention towards Tab, who's playing in the elevator, allowing him, setting him up to go for a great flank and stop anything over the top.
Jegs does find Kendry. They're trying to flash their way down onto the fight on the hatch itself, but Tab is about to make a grand appearance, cannot find the second, and that might have been a little bit defining and destructive. Instead, they have 1 above, 1 below. They're going for the rotate round onto the back of square instead of that hatch drop, which is a very risky strategy, especially when you have less bodies than your opponents. Let's see if they can try and force and wiggle their way in via server. Put up. Fenrir takes a second. They have time, at least on their favor. Can they get a read? Can they get a clean take onto one of these WYLDE players before they go for the collapse?
These DRC Retiros are going to be here from Noah. Opening up at least the castle barricade, or at least it's the goal to do so. We'll hit it as well, not being jammed by the mute jammer. Ooh, 2 shorts. Didn't quite get it. Anything left? Yeah, there's still another RC Rotero, but it's going to be opening up the wall rather than the door. So I hope they realize that the door is closed. Otherwise, they're moving into that direction for no reason. They cannot pass.
Oh, that's a big blow, because you'd expect that to be taken out. There's Noah getting the take onto Hungry, though. It's the clean one that they wanted, but Aces is able to pop round and get a bit of revenge. Azza, all that's left, no kit in 20 seconds. That castle's still standing. There's a bit of motion that's coming out from their 2 opponents. Oh, no. And that is frustrating. It has to go around. They've dropped underneath the hatch. There's 1 player still inside the site. They're tucked around onto the opposite end. There's the pop-up. Doesn't get the connection on the kill, but they're more than happy to step back in. And WYLDE push themselves to map point.
ITB, they assumed that the Rotero actually came through there. Not that I think it mattered too much there, because there was not that much time left anyway. But that could just as well lose you, like, rounds if you assume that it has opened up, but it hasn't opened up. And then it just, you know, crashes into there. But match point for WYLDE. They got 1 point. 2 more to be gained. And if they do get 6, as you mentioned before, you find yourselves in such a strong position for, you know, direct qualification even. And ITB, if they take a second loss, well, it's not looking too good for them at that point. And they really need to get the most out of the last 2 remaining games they have. There's only 4 games in the group stage. It's brutal.
Yep. It's brutal, it's fast, and when you're looking at a much sort of shorter amount of total siege played to get yourself towards SI, that's, you know, it's always the thing worth mentioning. We always used to have, obviously, conversations about SI, But when you would play a season last year and it was 7 play days, and then you would have a major, and then that would happen 3 times. You'd have so much room for growth, for training, and with the new sort of system, the 2 splitter groups, if you're not anything, you know, if you're in the bottom of that, you're gone.
Yeah.
And that can be it. That can be the whole sort of dream of SI gone in a single sort of 4 games. It's rough. Obviously, there's open qualifiers and other routes through, but the structure from tier 1 players for tier 1 teams means that everything is do or die.
Every game has its meaning and value. There's no more, yeah, we already won the league, we're already qualified, we don't really mind if we're, you know, 2nd or 3rd seed from this region. Sometimes you had those games. Every game counts now. There's no 2 ways about it. That puts us in these brutal situations as well, whereas ITB, well, they've definitely improved compared to stage 1, but this could already be their last, as Kendra playing on ramp, going to be jumping through, has to open up a lot of ground here, and will soon start to do so with the boogies, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, send them through, get that ground churned up. If you're unfamiliar, this is the new operator. They're ram and they ram. You throw those out, they go a distance of about 10 feet and tear up all the soft. You can destroy them with an impact or an explosive, or shoot that little red canister on the back. But, I mean, look at those angles. Look at what it opens up on a site like this. It becomes so tricky to play underneath it, because suddenly, you know, if you're playing against a buck, playing against a sledge, yeah, they can open that stuff up, but they've got to have a little bit of change between gadget and gun. Sort of, in the case of buck, and here it's, who knows?
I mean, it's always been a strategy for this site, right? Like, you open it up completely from the top, you flush out any defenders playing inside of it that way, but now you could just do it remotely. Like, of course, Buck has the capability to do so, but you still need to be relatively close with the shotgun. Ram just throws it, activates it, forgets about it. Just makes it very safe and allows it to just be another gun that's up at most times. And only Ace is currently inside this site. Not quite sure if there's any open flooring right above him. If he is in any danger, there's definitely some pre-fires right above his head. He's got aggressive right on the back of it, but I believe he's just been taken out from the top by Kendrew, using the opening that have been made by the boogies.
Had the cover, had the watch, and the plant's being covered as well. Yonka tucked into the close corners. Noah's able to get another for his tally. They're going for the swing fight, and Jags does win it out. Now it's a post plant, and they got to try and retake vertical. They got to see if they can try and get back above their own site and their own hold as it was taken for before. Teb tucks himself in. There's a lying low down player just inside watching, and you know, as I said, though, that vertical is the big risk, the big ask. Azza gets one more. There's the lockdown onto Banana, and there it is. To the breach, not quite done yet, 6-5, but assuming we're going back down to that basement, what's the change? They've had 1 success and 1 failure.
Again, good round there from ITB, good use of Ram, opening everything up, having that verticality, flushing out any defender that might have been left there, but Aces. And at that point, you can just go for a plant, and you have the main stairs under control as well, so nothing really they can do. So, well read, well done by them. Now they're a single round away of picking up points. But as you mentioned, they're going back down below where they had success and failures. Need to make sure that it is going to be a success for them if they want to find those points. If they want to halter WYLDE's attempt at making it to the major as well, you know? I mean, there's only limited spots coming through from each region. It's just the simple truth of it. You need to find these points against WYLDE if you want to find yourself in a good position for the end of the stage.
And that's sort of the split of it as well. Obviously, if they find themselves losing this, they would still technically be ahead of Koi based on the round difference. But Koi are not playing today. Koi will have an extra game in hand, an extra chance to try and pull some points, watching back. And then, you know, VP against their game, as I said, if they're able to get themselves off the sort of 0 mark today, well then suddenly not getting anything here against the game of WYLDE can become an early death knell, which is nothing that you want. But they have done the best that they have outside of a long OT game, technically, in the first sort of split. And they just pushed themselves to another OT this year.
Get to find out. As they look to enter quickly through the lobby. Drones about as well, just making sure there's no one on that first and second floor. Because as soon as they have the call that that's all completely clear, they can start opening up these hatches, they can start doing the prep work. Something that was kind of halted due to the pulse and the quick take they wanted to take on blue, but failed due to the information being out there. Tev, of course, on that pulse again, is trying to find out where they're actually pushing from. Knows it's not blue, knows it's not the tunnel. And how long is he going to stay there? Because now the sound call comes through. Hey, Vault's opening up. He's definitely coming in from the other side. Opening up the hatch right above Tev now as well. Falling back as well as they hear the X-Cars going off. And that should just be a free take of the server area.
What's going to be that final push here, and are Wild aware of it? We saw the step up last time, and they were here, and they were successful because they kind of made sure that ITB couldn't get set up for their take. They couldn't get set up for the breach itself. They took out 2 bodies and almost retook control on the back end. Here with the hatches falling and this very dramatic drop-down camera angle.
Put some music over that.
I mean... I won't do
exactly.
too much. Don't accidentally copyright strike. They've got themselves, as displayed, all the hatches open. ITB have given themselves so many options, but they're also making things awkward for Wild as the defense because they're not giving that choice of, do you know where we're coming from?
Also, they haven't opened up the sidewall here, so Yonkers in a bit of a tricky situation, needing to run through the door, not having the cover up close, unless they get no one near and can actually use that heart breach gadget to open it up for them, because right now this is a choke point, and there's going to be smokes coming through, there's people going to be watching that door, and they're going to be stemming the actual flow that ITB wants to go for here, so they need to find something, and that might actually just be the player that's coming in from the garage looking to cut them down from the back.
Oh, Yonka wanted to go for the plant, has to pull back because they suffered some damage, you assume, on the back end of some sort of the smoke canister. There's a pop round. Kanto drops in, gets one. Noah gets one of his own as well. Yonka's going to see if he can stick the kid on the back end as Kanto's holding on to gold. They're going to get this diffuser down. And with only a player left inside the vault itself, it's down to Packbull to see if he can stop this going to OT. There's a fantastic take for his third of the round, but with barely any health and one, well, I was going to say on the back of the green stairs. In fact, they've both rotated their way above the hatch. Neither of them want to give him a clean fight. He's moved his way underneath. He's holding on to the first pull. He's looking for the second itself. They move away, and as I just saw the leg, they drop the hatch for the closer fight. They realize they don't have the truest taste, and there it is. Into the breach, into OT.
Well done there. I kind of predicted that the Ying would actually fall there. Kanto would fall by the hands of Jags as he still had those glasses up, was not affected at all by those Candelas coming through, but he managed to pull through, and now 6-6, tactical timer to be called out by Wild. They need to have a little bit of a chat here as they're headed into a best of 3 in rounds to decide who's going to be picking up the 2 points, because both of them have one now. To be have managed to find and secure that one. Wild already did earlier. It's just one more point to be played for here, and these next 3 rounds will decide it.
I guess I sort of had, you know, the question of where are we going to see this timeout from Wild when things were 4-4. They wanted to see if they can carry themselves all the way through. They thought they could, but you never really know when the surprise strike's going to come from. Apparently, their first loss from a flawless record throughout league play of Tier 1 EUL this year might come from the team that has had the opposite record, that hasn't been able to pull a win at all. It's not over yet. It's the overtime. There's a chance here for them to get themselves those 2 points and get themselves still sitting pretty towards the top of the group. They might get leapfrogged later. At this point, you want to make sure that, you know, you keep your heads on.
Very important point. You are desperately in need of getting now, and Wild will be under the attack. Has been preferential for the game so far. Let's see if they can translate that into 2 extra rounds. But they're attacking into that lockers first. It's been a 50-50. So what they're going to do? Are they going to do the same thing again? Get themselves set up on the square area, make sure there's no one able to play there, and then go for a plant? And they're not bringing a Monty this time around, so it's definitely looking like a different kind of plant's coming through. It's not going to be hiding behind a giant shield, that's for sure.
Attacker's objective is to defuse the bomb.
So left the wall soft there, actually.
Give themselves a little bit of wiggle room. Now, ITB. I mean, I know I'm going to keep sort of angling to it, but the way they've come alive on that attack half, I want to see if that translates to a little bit more on their defense. We had a bit of a Kanto-heavy defense half, and since then, you're looking at Noah going huge, Kendrew and Azabeth getting themselves sort of stuck in. It's really transformed the face and the fate of this game, potentially. If they can try and find a little bit of that energy on their defense here, stun Wild even after this tack timeout. Now they are obviously very adept at their attacks, and they've led the game with just that energy. It does seem like they're playing a little bit slower, a little bit steadier. Remember the pace that we had from Wild's attacks before? They were almost instantly putting pressure onto the site. They were almost instantly putting pressure inside the building. And here, they are not giving anything to a second chance. They are making sure that they're safe in their approaches.
Might not want to risk it now. Just be sure that you're going to be able to find success here. And as these hatches start opening up, that might be an actual call for the rotations to come through. People falling back towards the site from the side of ITB. And I believe I saw one drop already. There's still another player inside the elevator they need to find first. As ITB, Gento actually almost dropping and losing his life as he falls back out there. But at least back inside, back alive. Has the opportunity to fight for these last 90 seconds as well. Has the opportunity to set themselves up now. Start opening up these hatches. Start opening up the walls that you need to go for. And start wasting utility, more importantly, on the site you want to be approaching from. But something tells me that they want to go for a B site take, considering the amount of Vulcan canisters still around on the actual service there. It's going to be very difficult for them to get that. Don't really have the utility to deal with it, except for that single fragmentation grenade. And I just don't think that will be enough to get a plant down there.
Here comes the attention towards the hatch itself. They obviously still have Noah in this position. Pre-fires, they move the shotgun in behind it, but Noah wins it out. Cannot get the second, though. The loss of Teb there, it's a little bit uncharacteristic to how the team's been playing. And Noah, as I said, he has popped off over the past 5 rounds, 6 rounds. He's really started to deliver for this roster in the latter half of this game. With 30 seconds left, while they're putting the pressure, they're eyeing up the idea of a plant. They're going for something a bit standard. You've obviously got the chance at the echo drones. The Goyos are popping off. The man who can see through it. Yonka still has 2 more smoke canisters as well. The time is so thin. Aces has to start trying to put some of this gun game onto the back end. Gets 1. But the plan is the read, and they're getting the full read on it. Azza has the echo drone. Azza just has to time this in his own way. Hacked and called. The perfect time if he can answer this, but Packball goes down. In the meantime, to the fire, the Goyo canister. And with only 3 seconds left, they cannot get this properly locked down. And it's the echo drone. Punishment laid out here by ITB, and 1 round separates them from dismantling that flawless team from yesterday. That flawless winning team from the whole year might fall for the first time here in Tier 1 EUL to ITB.
Great round there coming through from ITB, and while they tried to go for something different there, they had a more gun-heavy setup rather than using the shield and trying to focus on purely that plant by removing all the utility. Packbull goes in, dies with a 1 Goyo canister they could not clear from the top. As I said, it's going to be a problem for the take they wanted to attempt. The hack was on point for the first initial plant, but then, of course, turned off. Cooldown still on there, or, you know, second one already expended. Echo drone comes back up. There's nothing you can do. They had no clue it was out there hiding in servers. ITB to find themselves upon match point. 1 more round. They find themselves a victory. They find themselves with 2 points.
I would love to be sat on the sofa right now with our very talented analyst desk as they look at the site selection more than anything. Because obviously it is the 4th site. It's the 4th sort of popularity around the world ever since the meta changed on this map, however many seasons in a year or 2 ago. The openness of the pressure that can be applied here became risky. You've got to sort of full send it upstairs. I mean, we saw it earlier from Wild, and we saw it unsuccessful from the team as well. So the conversation to come here out of any other site is a very curious one, and it's a gamble.
I mean, maybe they spotted the key point of the attack, right? They found out what exactly is necessary for them to succeed here, and trying to counter on that definitely here. So probably we're going to see 1 or 2 players playing upstairs, making sure that Ram is not going to be allowed to go in as freely as before, opening up all those walls and floors, and make sure that there's no players allowed to be playing downstairs. C4 gets tossed out a bit short. As Tab saw that, probably told him as well. And as a minute has passed, Kendrew currently checking up that top floor, loses his drone, so that means he's going to be aware of the fact that there is going to be a player out there hiding for him.
I mean, that's it. They've got themselves pretty heavily set up inside the lobby. Kanto is going on a bit of a fun exploration.
That's the angle.
Yeah, that's pretty filthy. See if it nets them the kill, though, because the kill in that sort of position comes down to the pressure that's applied to the rest of the team to hope they rotate and sort of get themselves locked in there.
But that's it. There's not real pressure coming down right now. WYLDE not really receiving any punches as we speak. It's ITB just setting up all around the map. Tab now receives a little bit of damage. Kendra jumps in, but are they aware of the player that's still around inside the janitor? Definitely are. Kanta takes him down. Tab still inside the elevator though as he drops and manages to escape with his life.
Well, now they're tucking themselves back into the steady destruction of the Ram, ripping its way across the top. They've been able to get that first kill, but obviously they've been delayed by about 40 seconds compared to the pace of pulling this off last time. Kanto suffers a little bit of a scrape and damage. They're looking for any reveal that maybe there's a camera, maybe there's a C4, nothing that's directly caught because it's about to be ripped and torn towards the roof itself. But look how far WYLDE have to pull themselves back from the site. You become so sort of away from the point, and that's the risk because it's this open play and because it's against it. It's the one that really doesn't lend itself well to it. Jegs feeling a little bit adventurous, but as is eyeing up the site plant that he maybe was able to pull off last time. Does he feel as confident? They've got a bit of a backline towards the bottom of square. WYLDE are going for a bit of a retake onto it.
That's what I was going to say. The only thing they can really do in this situation right now is try and go for a retake. Try and retake that top floor, because as long as you do not have that, there's no way you can play inside. As a double kill comes through, it's Kanto that finds his triple. Hungry, the last man standing, will find one, but still 4 more to be taken down. He fails to do so, and ITB are stopping WYLDE, taking the points.
I mean, a huge game there, and you can see the sort of joy, the relief on the players, the celebrations, especially the ones that suffered through a first phase today. They've come out a little bit shining against a team that has finally been knocked off a pedestal that a lot of other people have been trying to pull against them.
Definitely well played by the side of ITB there, especially those last couple of rounds. They were able to just bring what was necessary to dismantle WYLDE there. They went off their usual playing style, WYLDE. They had to adapt, they had to change. And ITB, they were ready for it. They had the answers that were necessary today to take the 2 points.
Wow, congratulations to the team, especially Noah, as we said, who had a massive game. But we'll throw it to a quick break before we're back with our desk to break it down.
Blast R6 Major in Copenhagen. Are we ready, Copenhagen? 24 teams from all around the world made the trip here to Denmark.
Okamesh is straight on inside. He finds one, looking for a second. Okamesh is just eating him up for lunch. Gomez, as he plays behind one of the remaining Kiva barricades, to be a big nitro out here, and it's massive.
Trying to get ahead of it, spots it moving down the stairs, and there it goes for VP.
The
three go for VP!
Everything falls to Sploit, down in the 1v2 here. They're both focused on him. No matter.
We are now down to our Elite 8.
Surely not resets. He's making the 1v4 look so winnable. There's no way. Resets to ace to 1v4. Esk is trapped in a corner.
Vanessa can collect one, a second, a third.
Oh, he's just insane.
Something feels a little bit different today. It's Championship Sunday! 24 teams made the trip, 2 remain.
The defense, there comes 1 kill and 2. It looks like there's one left standing. It's Vods against his old team. It could not be any more bittersweet.
Are they going to be able to close this out here and now?
Into the Breach, our new organization, just secured their first ever victory in Europe League. Who would have thought that? It started off pretty strong for them. WYLDE came back, and then eventually, though, they did secure that victory.
You know, one person would have thought that they would.
He's going to say that he would have predicted it. I didn't see you posting predictions on Twitter.
I don't care about social media because I'm not a nerd like
So you would have predicted Into the Breach?
I would have predicted Into the Breach, and I said that yesterday on this desk. I was going to predict Into the Breach every single day because I actually believed that they would turn things around, and today they did. So yes, I believe.
You said Noah House was going to get kicked. You didn't say they were going to turn things around, Fabian. Come on.
I said he had to play for his career, and today he actually did because look at the numbers he put up.
He listened.
He listened. He did exactly what he needed to do, and Kanto kept up with his performance from yesterday as well. So we saw a much more even team and 5 players that actually showed up as a group. They played as a team today, and nobody can doubt that.
Yeah, that's the big change from yesterday as well. You know, yesterday it still felt like individuals just playing roles. Today it felt like a team. They were playing for each other. They were explosive. There was 3-2-1s, especially on their attack half. Defense, it didn't necessarily go too well. You know, they only won a couple. The 2 defenses they did win, they were up in the faces of WYLDE. They weren't letting WYLDE get, you know, set up, as we said, that we hoped we'd seen. And then as soon as ITB got onto the attack, it generally went pretty well. They, like I said, they were playing together. There was refrags. It's something we've not seen from them. And, you know, we've got to say about Noah, because we did criticise him yesterday. 15-9. Big performance today. Got himself a 4K on, I think it was the second attack round. Very, very good performance alongside Kanto, who's carried on putting those numbers up.
And I think it's really interesting as well, looking at Jonka. His numbers look poor. 1-8 is not a good scoreline, but the cost that he has in a 1-8 scoreline is very high for that much of a negative. So today they looked like a group, and as you said, Fresh, in the 2 defense rounds that they won, they went really aggressive, really into their face, and kept pushing it back. We saw the first round, Kanto gets a kill on Heaven on Jegs. For your information, guys, Fresh said that Jegs is a one-trick pony Yana.
Oh, not this again, please.
He played Yana 1 round out of 7 attack rounds. I don't care how many hours it's been. Fresh was wrong. I was right. I am the superior analyst. You got nothing on me.
All right, okay. Well, I am 3 World Championships behind. I am going to quantify this, that I think it was a very poor choice on the map choice by WYLDE.
Yeah.
And I think that actually, if it was any other map, we would have seen Jegs on Ayana. The 1 round where it mattered, where WYLDE didn't feel any ascendancy, he was on Ayana. So, you know, it is what it is. We'll settle that another day.
But that's the real question, though. This is WYLDE's permaban, right? Are they scratching their heads now? Did they underestimate Into the Breach? Or
I think it was, if I'm being nice to WYLDE, I would say a calculated gamble. I think from the point of view that when we see teams play opposition that they feel are significantly inferior, we've seen BDS do it a lot in the past, they will be happy to play on their permaban because what they'll believe is we can beat this team on any map. And I think WYLDE wanted to go out today and make a statement on their permaban by beating a team that they felt they could beat on any map, and it's blown up royally in their faces.
I mean, it's literally what we did with G2 the entire time, right? And it's the same thing that BDS does. You take them to a map where you don't give anything to anybody else because nobody will play this map against you. You won't let this map slip up against better teams because it's your permaban for a reason. You just don't feel as comfortable on it, be it theory-wise, be it just confidence as a group. It could be anything. WYLDE did it. They overestimated their own abilities, and I think they underestimated Into the Breach. So it was 2 things coming together, and it ended out well for Into the Breach.
So it does go back to being a permaban for them, maybe, or potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, if you 2 talked about in the pre-show or the pre-game that you required a very specific playstyle from Into the Breach to counter WYLDE's playstyle. Do you feel like they did enough of that?
2 out of 6 rounds they did, yeah. And then the 4 others that they lost felt like they more went back and took a little bit more passive up.
It's also very difficult, though, because those rounds where you're talking about Into the Breach on the defense, like you say, 2 out of 6 they did. They got in the face. But at the other times, WYLDE were just executing after 40 seconds of the round happening, which sometimes you just cannot predict and cannot prepare for. So I guess, yes, they did, and yes, they tried to. They just got caught.
But also, I do think that WYLDE's attack were actually very solid. If you look at the way that they did it, they counted the positions. They knew where the normal positions is in a defense on all the bomb sites. And then if they got an opening kill, they abused that opening kill to push from everywhere at once just to take a lot of ground really fast. So WYLDE did not play a poor map, but if we expect this to be their weakest maps in terms of preference, then playing good on your worst map is nice, but it wasn't enough.
It was still an overtime, I mean. And then one thing I was really excited about as well is we finally got to see a bit of RAM used in a good way as well on the Teller's bomb site.
Yeah, we did. We saw Kenny bring it a couple of times on the Tellus bomb site, and I think the one thing that's been overlooked potentially in the discussions around Ram, because we'll talk about the speed, we'll talk about Sledge has nades, so he'll be picked more. The one thing Ram that allows you to do, you can throw the Ram gadgetry, and then as the Ram, you can follow it. So normally when you're Sledge or Buck, if Sledge, obviously you've got your hammer out, you're in the animation. Same with Buck, you've got the shotgun. Ram can have gun up at all times whilst the vert's being made. Kenny managed to achieve a kill from that. We saw it yesterday with BDS achieving a kill from it. With that bomb site in particular, it allows you to just leave the Ram to do the vert. Nobody else has to peek. Sometimes you'll see teams have 2 players making that vert, whereas it has to just... Kenny used it as just him and the Ram gadgetry, and I think that was a nice usage of it, and I think it's one of the case uses that we'll see of Ram.
It is. I'm still cautious of calling it like as a replacement for either one of them, because I do think that you get more value out on this bomb site as well from either a Buck or a Sledge, just because you can open up more angles that are more important, because now it was all over tellers, nothing over archives.
Yeah.
And you want to see over both the bomb sites so that you can push them out. But then again, they didn't need that because they always went for the plant and they managed to get it down.
When it got to overtime, I feel like specifically on the face of Jonka, but in general all of the players Into the Breach, it seemed like there was a massive sigh of relief.
Yeah, I'll take this one because I've been there as well. I've been there, you know, when we, like I said, when we was on Chaos, where you can't get a win for love nor money. You could not pay a team to lose to you because you just can't get over the line. When you finally get over the line, it is so much relief because you get it from all angles when you're in that position. You know, we've stood here, we've given it when it was TT9 and when it's Into the Breach, we criticise them. Community does. Other pros do. When you finally get over the line, it's so much relief just comes through that I'm not surprised to see it on their faces.
All right, a very exciting thing, though, because we finally get to talk to Into the Breach. We do get to ask them a few questions about their victory, and we are joined by Kangaroo Kenny from Into the Breach. Now, how are you feeling today?
We won a game!
Yay!
Oh, it feels amazing. I'm still coming down from the adrenaline.
Understandable, understandable. But after sending off so many players to Tier 1, you now finally made that well-deserved step up yourself to Tier 1. How have things been with the team recently?
Well, I came in maybe 3-4 weeks ago. So even though the off-season's been long, they wanted to sort out their... ITB wanted to sort out their roster first, and then the organization change, and then the coach and staff always came last. So I've only been with them for 3 or 4 weeks. But when I came in, I don't think they won't mind me saying, but when there was no foundations whatsoever with this roster, there were no foundations whatsoever. I can understand why stage 1 was stage 1. So me and Leonski working side by side in the support staff and the help of the team, like none of this happens without the players. We've fundamentally been building up the basics of Siege, and we've been slowly improving like the early round into the mid round into the late rounds. And our improvement since I've been here for 3 or 4 weeks has been absolutely unbelievable. Yesterday we did not show whatever. I think nerves and confidence were not there today. You saw us come out with confidence, gusto. First round, we were in their faces, and we were not scared.
So you feel like from yesterday to today, it was only the confidence that changed, or was it more than that?
Pure confidence. Literally, that was it. I think I watched the analysis from Fresh and Fabian last night after the game, and what they said was completely right. We were timid. We were just sat in corners. We weren't playing. From my point of view, we weren't playing like we've been practicing being proactive and getting in people's faces and playing the meta. We didn't do that yesterday. We did that today. The defenses, we kind of, we lost 4-2. It was expected to struggle on defense against WYLDE. They're a fantastic attacking team. But yeah, we managed to pull it out in OT.
All right, just going to bring up one more thing regarding Fresh and Fabian. They've been talking constantly about the roles in your team. Do you feel like now you finally have the right balance and all things are restored within the roster?
Definitely. Jonka coming in as like a pure enabler, and I think you've seen it really benefit Kanto specifically. Yesterday, Kanto, even though we lost, I think he had 15 kills. Today, on double digits again, you've really seen Jonas being just a true enabler as a support player really help. He's just a complete all-rounder. If you think of football, he does everything in the center of the park. He calls the start of the round, he calls late round, he calls mini adaptations, he frags, he lurks. both players, obviously I've been with them for ages now in X10 Star, but both of them have really benefited this roster, and we've seen them benefit not only Kanto, but Kendrew's like really come out in being like a hybrid calling duo with Azza, and Noah today. I mean, he had a terrible game yesterday. Fabian even said he's fighting for his career. He's playing for his career. I had a good chat with him today before the game, and you saw it. MVP, 15 kills. Whole roster's just really shown up today.
That sounds really, really good. All right, is there anything you want to say to the fans now after this victory?
Thank you to Into the Breach, obviously, for being behind us. We obviously couldn't do it without them supporting us for every angle. And for all the people who think this roster can't do anything, we are here to play, and we're not just going to be a pushover for teams. We are here to be competitive, and I mean, this stage is already an improvement. We've probably overachieved because we've now won a game compared to last stage. I know I wasn't here last stage, but it was fantastic though. So thank you for all the support, New Org, everyone who doubted us and think we couldn't win a game. Well, there you go. Oh, and Teb, stop your stupid little interview antics with those planes and whatnot, because you're not here today.
I thought those were funny, but yeah. I mean, it was wonderful to speak to you. I think you've given us a lot of insights on the team and how things are currently. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we do hope to get to speak to you very soon.
Thank you very much. Enjoy yours too.
Thank you. That is indeed true. I mean, you know, they've just gone and beaten the #1 in the group from last time around, which was WYLDE. That's really, really impressive.
It's definitely a step up. They just overall, they looked so much more like a team.
Yep.
They just did things together. It looked like they counted down and they went to force things at the same time. It's, as Kenny say, it's the absolute basics to have this sort of communication. Yesterday it was not there, and today it was 10 times better.
I think we spoke about expectations before the game as well, about what is the expectations for ITB. You know, Fabian literally mocked me when I said about, you know, potentially looking towards majors and 6 invitationals. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they will go there, but a win is that stepping stone. They didn't achieve a win last year. They've got a win. Oh, last stage. They've got to win this stage. It is something to build on. There's clearly, you know, the beginnings of a team there. You wanted them to look like a team. They've achieved that today, and I think that's a very good sign going forward.
It is. I feel like we need some time to calm down from this to, you know, realize everything that just happened. So we will be taking a very short break, but then we will be back with our next game that is setting up right after this one. G2 versus Heroic right after the break.
He fails to do so, and ITB are stopping WYLDE, taking the point.